It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is What Made the Cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Trajan Wealth brings you this portion of the show, TRAJANwealth.com, for all your trusted local needs in retirement. TrajanWealth.com. Riley Nelson, former BYU quarterback, on the program here with us. And Riley, first of all, congrats getting through the football season. I'm assuming your boys ended it up. Everybody stay healthy. I guess that's the number one question.
Yeah, that's a nice way of saying there was a first-round exit for us in the playoffs.
Oh, okay, all right.
But, no, hey, listen, I told you last time we were the 8th seed in the top bracket. If we were going to go for a championship, we wanted to climb the highest mountain. Unfortunately,
sure,
this year wasn't the year, but we'll get back at them next. But, yeah, no, it was a great season, kind of bittersweet because it's done for these little kids. But, boy, we got it feels like the college season – and NFL just seems to just be getting going, even though, we're 3/4 of the way through.
Hey, you make sure those boys get started on that off-season program right now. No days off.
No. Let's get it going. Let's get them with some NIL deals already. I need all of it dialed up here before we get these guys into college. So, but no, take it way too seriously, way too early. That's the way we do it. We have to. Otherwise, it's not fun. Riles, let's talk a little bit about this 8-0 BYU team. What's impressed you so far about this team? Because at first it was like, man, finding ways to win in these games and coming back and winning. And yet it's interesting because this week I've noticed a lot of people going, yeah, but they've had to come back from a lot of games, and I don't like that. It's just we've turned a corner on how teams are looked at now. Have you seen that difference? And on the one hand, it's like, man, they're winning all their games. Isn't that enough?
Alex, the question was, what's most impressive to me is how unaffected they are by people continually moving the goalpost on them.
Yeah,
it feels like every time they do something that week, it somehow wasn't good enough. Everyone was talking about how Iowa State going on the road, and it was going to be this big challenge. And so when BYU comes out of there and wins by 2 touchdowns, everyone's like, but, and they just continually move the goalpost on this team. But they seem unaffected by it. So, their focus and their true, insulation from the way that Coach Sitake has them insulated from the pundits who just refuse to give any sort of credit to this team and their accomplishments. That's the most impressive thing to me, but no question.
What was your reaction to BYU being number 7 in the initial college football playoff rankings?
Yeah, I like it. Honestly, I thought the committee more than the talking heads, I think the committee's actually showing them some appropriate respect. Now, you could say they're leading the P4 conference, and there's the strength of record and all that stuff. But I'm super pleased with 7. And guys, look, I kind of get what the pundits where they're coming from, because we were here, or very similar to here last year, and went 2-2 in our last 4 games, right? So I do think that there is some room for this BYU team to continue to prove that they're not the same team of old. That this one is different, and obviously that starts with the matchup that everyone's got their eyes on Saturday.
Riley, when you see that, when everybody gets to this point of the season, teams have to figure out working through injuries. That's part of the game. LJ Martin's name, whether or not he was going to play, that keeps coming up, and it looks like he's going to play. But then everybody starts to go, well, who knows what the level of injury is. But every team is dealing with injury at this point. But how big of a deal is it to be able to have even a mostly healthy LJ Martin playing for this BYU team down in Lubbock on Saturday?
Yeah, I think it's tremendous. And I don't know what disclosed or not, so I apologize if this is misinformation. You guys can correct me, or we can just bleep out this section. But from what I understand, it's an AC sprain. That is the life of a running back or tight end or anybody, is these AC sprains. As quarterback, it's a big deal. I do not expect his level to drop as long as he can avoid the ground. The biggest enemy of AC sprains or shoulder separations is getting put into the ground. You can handle contact. He can still run his physical style where he gets to lower his shoulders and run behind his pads. But if he's got to find a way to, as he's getting taken down to the ground, to get to his back, because when you got an AC sprain and you get buried into the turf, that's when that thing really lights up and it becomes an issue. So I expect him to be able to run full style, like to be the LJ Martin that we've come to know and love. My biggest hesitation is just if someone plants that shoulder into that turf, and Texas Tech does have the artificial turf, so it's that less forgiving. That's going to be a tough deal, but it's a huge thing. Like you need your biggest complement of players going into your biggest challenges, and it does feel like coming off this bye week, it's not just LJ. I read, and I don't know if these are confirmed reports, but they should be getting JoJo Phillips back. They're getting Acera back. And there was probably 2 or 3 other guys that are coming back that are major contributors to this team. So whether or not they're going to be full blow and paying their full contingent of snaps, you need depth and you need availability. And it really does feel like BYU's got that working in their favor going into this Saturday.
Yeah, so you just have to fall like a Hollywood stuntman. It's fine. You just have to like.
If
like,
only
hey
they
guys,
could throw those
I'm gonna make this. I'm gonna.
Yeah. Throw those inflatable blobs out there.
Can we get a stuntman for LJ Martin on Saturday?
Every time he gets hit, then they pause the game. A guy comes in, falls down for him. It's fine. It'll be just fine. I like asking him not to hit the ground hard. Hey, just hit the guys full on. Don't hit your arm on the ground, LJ. Like that's all we're asking. It's a little bit of a tall ask, but there's also these games where you tell players like, oh, yeah, we're going to need you to play. It's like, of course they're going to try to play their freaking heart out in a game, regardless of how they're feeling in that moment. If they say that they can go, they're going to let them. They're going to try to get them to go. These guys are too big of competitors, man.
Absolutely, they are. And the reality is, I mean, the other thing I was going to say to that is like, as a runner, those shoulder separation problems, we talk about falling. That's actually something we practice. You practice getting tackled and you practice falling, and the right way to do it. But and you can largely, it sounds kind of crazy, but you can largely control it as long as you're dealing with second and third level players. As long as LJ's dealing primarily with linebackers and safeties, I think he's going to be really good. The problem is when one of those big 300-pounders gets his arm around your waist and you're trying to break that tackle, and then the second and third guys pile on. So I was going to say that if the O-line can perform like they've been performing this year and provide some clean lanes and holes to where LJ's not dealing with D linemen on the majority of his handout. Look, Texas Tech's defense is no joke. He's going to deal with penetration. He's going to have to deal with linemen. He's going to have to deal with first line of defense. But to the degree that the offensive line can provide holes to be running on, I'll take obvious observations for 400, Alex. But to the degree that the O-line can clean up those holes to allow LJ to attack that second level, it'll be that much better.
We've seen the growth and development of Bear Bachmeier each and every week. I know you've watched it closely. What are some of the things that stand out to you? What stands out to you most about his development and growth as he prepares for the biggest game of his life?
Yeah, the accuracy and then the clutchness. His clutch gene is really big there. I mean, look, it's no secret that against Utah, they were like, listen, we don't more – this is going to make Utah fans mad, but BYU, especially during that 9-game streak, they lost more games to Utah than games that Utah won, meaning BYU was always down in the turnover. Those turnovers always seemed to result either directly in points by way of a defensive touchdown or set up short fields. That was always for a decade, that was the narrative, or that was what happened in the BYU-Utah matchup. And so it was obvious that in the second half of that Utah game, they were like, let's not risk it, and let's just let's throw that running back as an extra blocker and let this dude use his 235-pound frame. And they did it. Well, I thought we were going to see more of the same of that in Iowa State, but Iowa State was packing the box, and there were some key downs, especially in that second half and in that comeback. I mean, obviously, holy cow, Satuala, what's his first name? Anyway, obviously his pick six was a huge deal. Yeah, Faletau Satuala, but that was a huge momentum-turning play. But even prior to that, those scores and those drives, to me, were pretty much the byproduct in the production of Bear's ability to drop back in the drop-back pass game on key downs and deliver strikes and keep the offense moving with his arm. So that, to me, has been initially it was his moxie, then it was how he was unflappable, and then it was his durability. And each game he seems to be building on the layer. And this most recent one, prior to the bye, to me was his ability to deliver with his arm in high-pressure situations.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, is that what is the stuff he's got, do you think he's gotten the best at in this time? Because I think people look at it like, oh, he kind of delivers the same performance every game, but there's stuff, obviously, that he's learning as he goes here.
No, he doesn't. His passing game against Iowa State looked different. What it looked like it did back maybe not Portland State, because he wasn't still throwing that much against Portland State. I'm trying to think, but back in the early half of the season when BYU was playing kind of lighter competition, and everyone's like, yeah, wait till he gets against some real teams. Well, he's gotten against the real teams, and it still looked really clean and really efficient, and especially that it was, like I said, second half of the Utah game, they kind of made him a third running back or a second running back. But in the Iowa State game, when you thought you were going to see them just dust off that playbook and repeat it, they didn't. They allowed him to be a pocket passer, and he delivered. But to me, that's the biggest thing. Now, what's the next step forward he's got to take against Texas Tech? Well, here's the crazy thing about Texas Tech, guys, is like as I both watched them and then as you kind of just look at the matchup and the stats, not only are they like a staunch defense that just doesn't allow a lot of yards and points, but they're also opportunistic. Their sack leader has 11.5 sacks. Like, that's crazy. And then they're also tops in the conference in interceptions, the defensive points, all while limiting yards and limiting points. Oftentimes with defenses, it's kind of a trade-off. You either have a defense that's really stout and it's kind of bend, don't break, doesn't allow points and yards, but they struggle to create turnovers and momentum-changing plays, or you have the opposite, a defense that gives up its points, but, they're picking the quarterback off twice and they're sacking him 5 or 6 times a game. This Texas Tech defense does both of those, and so what's he going to have to do? He's going to have to, first of all, weather adversity. That's first and foremost. Second is consistently get the ball out of your hand. It's easy at the beginning of the game when it's fresh on your mind to think like, ooh, I got to get the ball. It's hard, and it got to have it like third down situation late in the third quarter in a one-score game to remind yourself that, like, hey, I got to be 1, 2, 3 hitch ball out here. Otherwise, it could spell trouble for my team. So we'll see if he can continue to take those steps forward. And, boy, it's one of the tallest tasks that a BYU QB has faced to do it in these circumstances against this team that I can remember in recent past.
Yeah, BYU's never been on a bigger stage here. 2 top 10 teams, college football playoffs, Big 12 championship implications. It's never been bigger than this. There's a lot on Bear here and a lot on the Cougars overall. But you look at Texas Tech, and they do have that one loss this year. Arizona State was the team that beat them. What do we learn from what Arizona State was able to do that BYU could do in this game to get the win over Texas Tech? Is there a weakness on this Texas Tech team?
Yeah, well, the weakness is you don't allow their offense. So the first quarter was largely like ineffective, but if you look at the drive charts for Texas Tech in that first quarter, they had 4 3-and-outs, and their fifth drive, they actually had 5 drives. Their fifth drive, they got a first down on the first play of the drive, and then so it was essentially a 3-and-out plus 1. So they had 4 drives of 3 plays and 1 drive of 4 plays. And then Arizona State on the other side, even though it didn't result in a lot of points, Arizona State was having drives of 6, 8, 9, 5 plays, and it just kind of deflated them. One of the things about the makeup of this Texas Tech team, it is a defensive team. Like, it is driven by the defense, no question. And what happens is the defense wears down their opponent. The offense gets going late in the second half. Like what we saw against Utah was not the exception. That was kind of the rule for this Texas Tech defense, in that over the course of 4 quarters, the defense wears you down. The offense continually gets shots at short fields, and they rack up points in the third and fourth quarters. The fourth quarter is the highest scoring point, or the highest scoring quarter for Texas Tech, and to me, that's a strong indication that that's because they're relying on their defense to set them up for that late game success. Most of the high flying, you think about the Chip Kelly Oregons or like those type of offenses, they came out the gate like sprinters and tried to build a lead in the first half. This Texas Tech team is the opposite of that, and so it's going to be a tough challenge for BYU. But BYU is also, you talk about that defense and all that, they're also as resilient as a team as we've seen in in years. And so, man, I think this game's really going to live up to the billing.
That's what I was going to ask you as a guy who watches offenses and breaks that down from a perspective of watching BYU's defense. What is the thing that they do that makes it so difficult for guys when they're hitting?
Yeah, well, theirs is they just never make a mistake. So I came up, 2 years in the Mountain West, and we played TCU in early independence, and those Gary Patterson defenses, which were just like a nightmare to deal with. One, they ran a little bit of a different scheme. They ran a match concept on the back end, which is not quite man, but it's also not quite zone, and you didn't see it that often because it's very hard to run, and so that was one thing that made it tough. But the second was they were just so disciplined. They were so assignment sound, and that's what this BYU defense is. The D-line doesn't get a lot of headlines or doesn't make a lot of plays, but they rarely make mistakes. Like, you don't see guys missing gaps. Every gap is accounted for. They play with good effort and good physicality. And then, as we've seen, the cornerbacks make plays on the edge. I'm hoping, my optimistic take is that this bye week has really allowed Glasgow and Kelly to get fully healthy, because I do feel as BYU fans we've forgotten a little bit about what it was like when those guys are at full speed, because it's been over a month, right? Because both of them have been dealing with injuries. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know how close we are to the end of the segment, but I'll give you my full score breakdown and prediction, and I think it just has a lot to do with just full, solid play.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So here's my rationale. I think this, like I said, I think this game lives up to the billing. I think both teams are going to come in well prepared. I think the 10-point spread is a slap in the face, and you're mistaking yourself if you don't think that Coach Sitake and Coach Hill and Coach Roderick are using that as motivation. But I think this game kind of plays out to the averages. So BYU, to me, it's 20-17. And here's how I get there: 2017 BYU. So Texas Tech, or BYU's defense averages given up 17 points a game. I think they get that, right? Mortensen, we keep talking about all our injuries. Hammond goes out with the ACL. Morton's kind of coming back to full duty, but we know how banged up he's been because he's missed games already. I think BYU's defense holds Texas Tech to their season point total of about 17. Texas Tech, I believe their defense is every bit as good as we say. I think they hold BYU to their season average points allowed of 13, but the difference is a special teams or defensive touchdown. I think they're able to. I think this team feels like they've got that magic, whether it's a block punt return back or a return or a kickoff return or something. That the special teams or the defense is going to come up big, come up with that extra 7 points. That doesn't have to come against that Texas Tech defense that gets BYU to 20, and that gets you to my predicted final of 2017.
It's a close game. Those are the ones we like.
And that would be an incredible result for BYU. And my goodness, to think what's possible, Riley, if they're able to pull that off. 9-0 undefeated. Wow. Yeah,
I'm that bullish on the team. The one thing though is like this team has shown its propensity for potential letdowns. So no rest for the weary. We can't even enjoy.
You're saying you're waiting for the bottom to fall out of this, like every BYU fan.
No,
when is my dream going to be dashed?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying maybe you give yourself a couple hours on Texas Tech before you're like, all right, let's not get snake bit by. And forgive me, does it go Tech? Does it go Tech, Cincy, TCU, or does it go
TCU, Cincy?
Tech,
yeah,
TCU?
It goes Tech, TCU,
Cincy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean TCU throws up points and yards like it's nobody's business. Now it's not producing wins, but then it's like, oh man, do you turn around against a track meet team and you're so worn out, do you not get burned out? But yeah, I agree. It'd be an incredible result, 9-0. That point, that time you would finally validate yourself. If you're sitting at 7 now, you're probably looking at a bye. The next playoffs come out, you're probably looking at a bye. Now, you might need one of those top 4 to lose, but you would finally validate yourself with the win against Texas Tech. And so, the sky would be the limit. And so at that point, it's just about taking care of business and not letting the snake bite you.
Yeah, but 20-17, that's not very impressive, and I haven't been, that's not something that
Alabama would have beat them by 20. It just means more.
I'm just, I just prepare. I try to.
You got Mac Rhodes down, ready to go right now.
I try to prepare BYU fans' hearts for whatever they're going to end up having to hear the next week, because that's what it ends up being. So, Riley Nelson, former BYU quarterback, on the program here with us, and we appreciate you taking extra time here, Riles, and have fun with the family. We'll chat with you again one of these future weeks here.
You bet, fellas. Always a pleasure. Talk to you soon.
There you go.
Thanks,
Riley Nelson.
Enjoy the game.